BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
So how are you doing?
Good. I literally just got back from Boulder Dash.
Nice. How was that?
It was good. Instead of racing it competitively this year, I went out and I was a guide for a new first-time racer for their charity Find Your Bold.
Nice.
So that was very fulfilling, a lot of fun. The racer was very surprised with what she was able to do.
I
So
find that with a lot of people.
yeah,
They get
yeah,
surprised. They're like, I didn't think I can do that much. It's like you can do a lot more than you think you can in most cases.
yeah, definitely. And as we're running, she's going through a list of, okay, I need to work on this, this, this. Just like, I honestly am really surprised I was able to get this far on this one.
Mhm.
Here are some things to improve upon, and I'm definitely going to be back. So
Which is awesome.
yeah, that's exactly what we need.
We do. We need more of that. So, and that's one of the things that I think the first couple times I did it, I had that where it was like, oh, I'm surprised I can do this much,
Hmm.
So it's like one of those things, everyone knows I took kind of a break, but I've actually been starting to push again and running, and I'm not as far back as I thought I would be.
Yeah,
My
good.
times aren't where I'm used to seeing them, but I'm also running a little different. I've been paying more attention to like my heart rate and keeping it down rather than just pushing myself to that limit. So
Good.
keeping my heart rate down to try and get used to that. And so it's been, like I said, not the speeds I'm used to, but
Hmm.
I mean, for basically 5 months of not doing anything really, it's not too bad. So
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome.
So, and rearranged the gym, got rid of a couple of things so that I have room down there, made it an actual area I can work out in and
Oh,
all
so
sorts of
good.
stuff. So, and I actually got a fluid trainer for my bike. So I just have my bike hooked up in the living room basically. So when we're watching TV, I can sit on the bike and get used to sitting in the seat of my bike and just going.
Perfect.
So working on a few things, trying to get myself back to where I supposed to be.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So you did Boulder Dash. That sounds like it was amazing. I mean, I've never done that one. I mean, partly because it's on the East Coast and I really haven't done any on the East Coast yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a local race here. It's been around, I want to say since like 2011,
Mhm.
2012. And it is now a semi-permanent course. They hold the race on a campsite. So where people
Oh,
come out for camp, like kids camps throughout the summer or
well,
whatever
that's
else.
cool.
And on specific days, they allow the race to come in and have participants come run the trails. They have obstacles set up and so on and so forth. So Boulder Dash, their race has been set up there for a few years, and they'll hold boot camps every couple of weeks where people can come and run the course, test out the obstacles, train on the obstacles before they actually have races and in between races and
Oh.
all that kind of stuff. So it's really great. They also have probably the hardest rig in the US.
And see, that sounds fun to me because it's one of those things I like one that's challenged. That's a challenge. You know, I'm not good at the rigs anyway, but I like one that I know it's gonna take work for me to get this one.
It's been taking work for me to get it, and I've been attempting it for years.
Yeah.
Granted, I've only attempted it maybe like once a year for the past couple of years,
Yeah.
but it's comparable to things that you would see right now in Europe,
Yeah.
and it doesn't involve a lachey, which that's been the big thing in a lot of European races. That's a big thing with Savage. This is a totally different type of rig. This is pegboards and gibbons,
Oh.
and you have two pegs in your hand the entire rig. You have three floating pegboards with gaps in between to a floating peg block, into two gibbons, and then another long peg block, but it's like a pole-ish kind of peg
Hmm.
block, and then a bell.
Oh, wow.
So most times that I'm there, I can get through the floating pegboards. This time they were spaced a little farther apart, So it was harder to get started. Just you
Yeah.
you have to really guesstimate on your swing, and if you miss it on the first time, you swing back and, there's a milk crate down there and you could end up, falling on it, rolling an ankle. So it's not always the safest to get started.
Yeah.
Just obviously it's, a course that they have to be able to take down, put back up, whatever else.
Hmm.
So I don't fault them for that. Again, the spacing's just a little too wide for my short arms.
Hmm.
But I can usually get across the floating pegboards, and then I go to transition to the peg block, and you're trying to put the peg into the block but blindly. So you have to reach around to get the peg in the hole and you can't see it.
Hmm.
So the second you go to try to put the peg in, the block is just swinging all over the place. And I've nailed it a couple of times. I've gone to get the next one out of the third board to then put into the gibbons. And it's just really hard to get the pegs out of the pegboards when you're swinging from it, because you need to maintain that momentum swing to get that, the lift where you're weightless to fully pull the peg out. Because if there's any weight on the peg, it's pulling down and it's not an easy out.
Yeah.
So then from there, you have to then be able to nail it into the gibbons. So I'm working the transition from the peg to the gibbons. And I did get that transition today, but more when I was starting from the last pegboard into the block, into the gibbons.
Hmm.
So that happened, but I wasn't able to get across the floating pegboards. I can make excuses. It was cold out. I didn't actually run the course, so my body wasn't warm. My grip was off, blah, blah, blah. It just didn't happen. And I plan to go back to their boot camps because I am determined to be the first girl to make it across. Today, they had the third ever male who was able to get across the obstacle.
Oh, wow.
So they built this rig during COVID in 2020, and they have only had now 3 people in all of its history who've beaten it.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, yeah, that is definitely impressive.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
was talking to the guy who beat it today. His name's Grant. He's an awesome racer out here on the East Coast. He came last year and was defeated by it, and he beat it today. He had to chicken wing on the gibbons. One of the pegs broke while he was going across, and he was really terrified that it was going to give way on the gibbons. But he was
yeah.
able to get through it, and he came off and he, fell to the ground, and he looked at everybody and said, I have to start running or I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
But we went back. And again, I didn't race competitively today. So after I crossed with the person I ran with, I was talking to Grant about how, it went for him. And I said, I really want to go and, see what I can do with it today. I don't think I'm going to get it today. Just it's not the day, but I want to try and troubleshoot it a little bit more. So we
Mhm.
went back and we were talking. And again, I pulled my phone out because I'm like, Grant, you've beaten it. Let's see it again. And it was one of those things nope, it wasn't happening for him either. You got to hit it right at that special moment
Yes.
to get it. But yeah, and we were talking about all the spacing and everything else that can be done with it.
Hmm.
And we were talking, and I was like, okay, I think I could possibly get a good lateral swing to get across it this way. But obviously, getting to the peg block, I'd have to switch my grip.
Yeah.
But on the peg boards, the pegs are so close. And then the swing you get from that close, you're not going to be able to get across the gap because of how wide it is. Said, okay, well, if we try to get up to the top pegs, but for me being so short, I'd have to really pull up. I said, think about all of the Europeans. When we watch those videos, when they're in their lockoffs, their elbows are sucked in right to their side and they are turning their body in space as they're holding a lock off on one arm to then put the peg in the next one, pull it in nice and tight. If you're not watching this on the YouTube video,
You
you're
have
probably
no, but
missing out on what I'm doing, but I'm
so
like
yeah, definitely watch the YouTube
attempting
video.
it and twisting with it. And I don't know how the Europeans are doing it, because they are getting these rigs where it's pegboards into peg blocks into gibbons, and they're using straight lock offs for it. But you have to have such a tight lock off and be able to hold all on one arm just to be able to pull the peg out. And then you have to be able to twist your entire body, so then you can use that arm that you just took out of the peg to then put into the next one. And it's just like mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few of those, and it's quite impressive, some of the stuff that they're doing with the obstacles over there. I mean, I know whatever, we're supposed to be patriotic and everything, but at the same time, I'm looking at what they're doing, and they're above and beyond where we are. I mean, I'm looking at Europe going, that's where we should be heading. And it
Completely.
sounds bad, but it's places like, the one you did today, Boulder Dash, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I said it right. But it's like Boulder Dash and these smaller ones that are doing the innovation, where we
Yep.
got some of and I think what's holding us back, and I know some people are going to be so mad at me for saying this, is the bigger ones. The ones that aren't doing
Hmm.
innovation, the ones that aren't, they've got us stuck on the same obstacles that we've been seeing for 5 years or longer, and not
Yes.
going with new innovations. Their new innovation is to make penalty loops rather than make the obstacles more. They're honestly, in a lot of ways, making it easier, where Europe's going the opposite direction and making it harder.
Yes. Oh my gosh, completely. And I know when we scheduled this, like Don messaged me and said, Megan, you just had the New England OCR Expo. I want to hear all about it. And the big part of it that I'd really want to talk about is exactly what you're talking about right now. I gave a speech at the expo, and I can I'll read the full speech, but going into it, when they're like, Megan, we want you to speak, it's like, I'm the worst when it comes to self promotion,
Mhm.
because I am one of many obstacle course racing coaches. I know I have a niche, I have backgrounds, all this kind of stuff. But me at an expo, looking at it, I said, okay, I'm on the committee to organize this expo. So if you're asking me to come and speak, why? Because I'm on the committee. We have so many other coaches,
Yeah.
trainers, gyms that are coming here. Aside from the fact that I'm on the committee, why should I be the one to come in here and speak on training when people are going to be going to all of these different people to talk about training? Said, but what I have that maybe these other coaches don't have is I have a meter on what's going on in the world of OCR, not just in the training realms of OCR. I said, for me, my business is going to be okay as long as the sport survives.
Yes.
That I don't need to come in here and say, here's my training philosophy. Here is why you should come train with me. I can come in here and say, hey, this is why we need to keep racing. This is where the sport is currently. This is where it's trying to go. And here is how you, as a racer, continues to support it. And part of it is, yes, let's train.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read my speech, because I think from what everybody said, it was a solid speech, but I was really happy with what I wrote. And it is right in line with what we're talking about.
Perfect. I'd love to hear it.
So, and I did write this specifically to be like in the expo.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that? Those are the growing pains of our sport. We've all seen it happen these past couple of years. Brands are hurting, numbers are down. People are bored with the same obstacles. The same pictures we've been posting for years are no longer getting likes and comments. Without the social media validation, what's the point of racing anymore? The influencer era is dead. Obstacle course racing has hit a transition period. Change sucks. It's absolutely terrifying. While you're still working on beating the monkey bars and the multi-rig, suddenly you now find yourself having to swing across cheese boards. And lache? What does that even mean? This is not the sport we signed up for years ago. Welcome to the innovation era. Evolution is natural. The purpose of the sport is to overcome. So why run away when new challenges emerge? I've heard the complaints. There's not enough tactical obstacles anymore. The sport isn't as rugged as it used to be. OCR is becoming too ninja. Sadly, this is all true. Obstacle course racing is trying to find its place in the world. In order to have a solid path, we need more standardization. We need more sponsors. We need more spectators. Europe has this figured out. OCRs through neighborhoods with spectators lining the streets, fun and challenging obstacles, full competitive race series with brands working together, but still maintaining their own identity. Europe has the future of the sport laid out. In America, though, we're terrified of the evolution. So what can we do? Clearly, we all love this sport or we wouldn't be here today. But how can you keep the sport alive? 1, support the little guys. Sign up for the local races, not just here in New England, although we have some of the best of the best. Travel to the small races across the country. These are the races that are changing their obstacles year over year. They're bringing you consistent new challenges, and they're the ones with the most supportive communities. This is where you will have the most fun. They do this strictly for the love of the sport. 2, get involved with USA OCR. We have a governing body working every day to lay down the foundations of a legitimate sport. We're certifying coaches and officials, putting protocols in place to standardize the safety of courses, and we're sanctioning events to give the USA OCR stamp of approval. This doesn't mean that we're asking every race to look the same or even follow the same rules. It means that it has the function or the foundation to be a safe and fair event. USA OCR is also forming an official Team USA for pro and age group championship competition. Applications are open now. Stop by my booth if you'd like more information. Most importantly, number 3, prioritize your development. Don't just train to train. Find a program that's specific to your needs and that is focused on your goals. While the innovation of new obstacles can be scary, the biomechanics of obstacles will never change. This is all based on the basic functional movements that we've been using since our early days on the playground. Unfortunately, the wear and tear of life has messed us up a bit, but we can get back there. Learn how to swing forward, learn how to swing sideways, learn how to lock off, learn how to transition between it all. Instead of focusing on troubleshooting each individual obstacle, focus on the tools and the biomechanics that can be used across the board for whatever obstacle you see. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the more bells you ring, the more you want to come back for more. Look around today. There are plenty of coaches here, all eager and willing to help you. The more you thrive, we thrive. Please ask us to help. Change will always be scary, but we're a sport that thrives on getting outside of our comfort zone. Get out and try something new this year. Support the brands and the companies putting their hearts into churning out the best sport possible year over year, and always invest in yourself. You are the heart of this sport. You have the opportunity to keep the sport alive. Keep evolving within yourself. Keep falling more and more in love with ringing bells and earning medals. Keep telling everyone you know how much fun you have, race after race. And in doing so, you will keep this sport alive.
That's a good speech. I mean, and there's so much in there that we've talked about in the past, and that is just, I mean, it seems like it should be common sense. Like, we know this, we realize we have to evolve. Everybody evolves. But the problem that we're having right now, as the sport's evolving, everyone's afraid of the evolution.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's been the same forever. And my biggest problem, like I said, that, we've talked about, I'm tired of the stagnant. I want new challenges. I want to learn to lache. Like the first time I'm on a course and all of a sudden I'm like, I have to lache. I mean, I'll be honest, I have short arms. I have to lache a lot earlier than most people. But I mean, that's one problem I have on the monkey bars. There's a couple times I've had to lache on the monkey bars just because I can't reach.
Yeah.
I'll swing out, reach for it, and I'm like, nope, that's too far. I've got to jump for it. But I mean, you watch people, some of the elites, on some of these races, they hit the monkey bars or, what is it, the beater. And I've watched guys lache past the beater,
Yeah.
like just completely skip it because they're able to do that jump where it's like, if you can do those kind of things, it ups your game so much. There's always going to be those that just want to do the fun and have fun, which is great. But that's what I love about a lot of the small ones, like you talk about, where they have like, hey, you want to go out there and have fun, go out and have fun. But if you want to do a competition, you're actually going to be pushed. And
But
that's what I want
also,
to see.
how fun can it be if you're going to the same races every year? You're
Mhm.
seeing the same obstacles. If you're continuing to fail the monkey bars, if you're continuing to fail the multi-rig, how much more are you going to continue to attempt before you're like, this is demoralizing, I can't get it?
Yep.
At that point, okay, you need to change up your training to get there. But
Yes.
like in contrast, as somebody who hasn't had a difficult time on the monkey bars and the multi-rig ever, I don't want to go to the same races where it's the same monkey bars and multi-rig because I'm like, what else can you give me? Spartan promised us uh, a tilting monkey bar this year. That hasn't happened yet. They
Yeah.
promised us that, A-frame stairway type of thing where you climb up and back down. That hasn't happened yet either. Like, you got our attention, Spartan, by showing us these new obstacles. Like,
But then
what?
deliver.
You didn't deliver. At
Yeah.
least we look at Savage, and I haven't tried the new obstacles. I've heard some of them are just kind of meh, but I've had some people
They're
that went
trying.
out to them and said, I didn't have high expectations when I saw these, but actually they're really fun. And, some of these may work in the competitive heat, some may not, but they're trying. They're giving us something new. I mean, I went out to Boulder Dash today, and the person I was running with, she's like, I've never ran this before. What obstacles am I going to see? Like, what's the first obstacle? And I said, honestly, I didn't look at a map. Said, I don't know if they put any new obstacles in this year because I just haven't heard. And we're running and we come up to a monkey bar and they have 3 different levels of difficulty in a monkey bar. And I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They haven't had a monkey bar here before. We keep running and we come up to a weaver. Like, I've only seen a weaver at 2 other obstacle course races in the US. I see people posting weaver videos over in Europe, and people here are like, oh my gosh, that's a miserable obstacle. Oh, it's so hard, it's so challenging. I'm so happy we don't really have it here. And here's Boulder Dash bringing a weaver into their course. And most people would look at Boulder Dash and be like, oh, it's beginner friendly. It is beginner friendly because they scale everything specifically for people's different abilities. But that weaver was in every single race course, the kids, the 5K, the 5 mile. And it's literally a give it a try. If you can't figure it out, that is okay. You tried it. You don't have to do a penalty. You can keep going. But every person that saw it said, I've never done this before. Now that I kind of understand what's going on, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give it a try again.
Yeah. Well, and I think the problem we run into, it's like you mentioned, if you're doing the monkey bars over and over again, you train to do monkey bars.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, here's a pegboard. And you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. I've never trained for that. And like you've mentioned, if you train for mostly like the mobility and the muscles and everything else, you can do any of those they're throwing at us. And I think the problem that we run into is most of us, and I'm guilty of it, I've done it, where I'm training to what I know is going to be there. I know there's going to be monkey bars. And for whatever reason, even when I was fat, I was still good with monkey bars. But I don't know, that's just one of those. I'm good at hanging apparently. But
You must have good core stability.
probably. So maybe. But I've also got good balance. So that usually means good
Okay,
core
yeah.
stability.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that, I've always been good at that one, but it's like that's all I trained for. And then all of a sudden, when they first threw in, beater, I'm like, oh, wait, what the hell is this? I don't know how to do this because I had
Mm-hmm.
never done it before. And that's where it becomes one of those things that if you train the body to be able to do the laches, to be able to do the cork board or the peg boards, to do all of those, when you come up to one that you've never seen before, you have that much more chance to do it rather
Yeah.
than, oh, this isn't what I've trained for. I can't do this. It's like the one thing we've talked about this before when I did all the running. I ran like crazy and my legs, I could move. But the first time I
Mm-hmm.
did an obstacle course after that, once they finally opened back up after COVID, all of a sudden they're like, okay, pick up the Atlas ball. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never had a problem picking up the Atlas ball, but I didn't train heavy on anything for over a year. So all of a sudden they're like, lift heavy and do this. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't train for that.
Yeah. I mean, even seeing the first time racer today, and I talked about at the top of the show how she was so surprised that she was able to do so much of it
Mhm.
as a first time racer who, doesn't lift weights. She said, I really planned to train for this, but it didn't happen. And she's like, I was still able to do so much. And I said, yeah, our body is designed to do all of this stuff. We just need to remind it of that. And that is where a lot of my training comes in. It's biomechanically based. So you train the muscles specifically for, whatever it could possibly see, but nothing specifically because you want those muscle to be able to snap into whatever it's about to do. You want that muscle memory to come right back. And sometimes, if it's at a mandatory completion race, you might need 1 or 2 reps to really figure out which
Mhm.
tool is going to be best for you. But sometimes, if it's like a Spartan, that monkey bar isn't really changing. So,
No.
as long as you know what works best given the current conditions, or if you know how to change between your techniques if you need to, then you're good to go. So I have my clients, they practice swinging forward, they practice swinging sideways, but it's just like on a pull up bar.
Mhm.
And, when we came out to the monkey bars today, I looked at the person that I was running with and said, okay, she's like, I've never done monkey bars. Like, even as a kid, I could not do monkey bars. Said, let's try sideways. So you are going to sandwich grip your hands on that bar. So closed grip, you're going to reach across with one and then bring that hand over. And you're going to try using your hips to swing, and that's going to allow you to move. She unfortunately wasn't able to, but I think she was really overwhelmed with everything.
Yeah.
And
But it gave
she
her a new tool.
laughed. Yeah, she hung on the bars. She tried it. She said, okay. She's like, I know what I need to work on. And I said, honestly, you getting up there on that monkey bar was the first step. That is overcoming a challenge for you already because you went in there knowing you could never do the monkey bars as a kid and you still tried.
Yes.
You felt your body weight. Now we need to get you hanging a little bit more. We need to teach you how to activate your core from a hanging position. We have to teach you how to generate momentum from your hips. And from there, it's all going to fall into place.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing is, I think you get a lot of people that don't realize, like, they look at an obstacle and they're like, oh, there's one way to do this. And there's not. And monkey bars is a great example of
Exactly.
that. You have the ones that swing like a monkey, grab
Hmm.
one, swing to the next, and just go through. Where I'm one, I go the same bar with the same hands. So
Yeah.
I'll grab, and just all the like walk my way through it. I've done the way like you talked about where you switch sideways and
Yep.
do, grab, and just go through. So there's multiple ways of doing this. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of people get stuck, well, oh, I can't do it that way. And the reason why, a lot of people have asked why I don't do the full swing, because when I was bigger, I have shoulder issues.
Yeah.
And if I do the full swing, that's when my shoulder is going to dislocate,
Yeah.
especially when I was 310 pounds doing it. I mean, my body wouldn't hold that. My shoulder wouldn't hold that weight in a swing. And I knew it. So that's why I knew to do it the way I do. And that's just the way I do it now because that's how I've always done it.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people to start with the sideways swing because it maximizes their wingspan without putting their shoulders in
Hmm.
um, a place that could make them more susceptible to injuries, because
Yeah.
shoulder mobility is one of the biggest limitations for people on the monkey bars, and they don't realize it. And that's why they over grip their hands. As soon as you tighten up your grip, it sends this chain reaction up through into your shoulder to try and build more support, because your grip strength isn't as strong as the strength you get from your core, your shoulders, your arms, everything else.
Yeah.
So not only do I teach clients how to, increase their shoulder mobility, increase their core stability, increase hip momentum, but I also teach them how to grip with the hand and still utilize the shoulder. Because at the end of the day, if you can grip, if you can lock off and still swing, you're golden. I mean, how many pros do we see where they can pull into a lock off and they can still swing from their hips? That's exactly what I want them to do. I don't want them to think, okay, if I lock off, then I just need to stick with it and use all my upper body strength. No, you can still stabilize in that lock off position. It's going to take a lot of grip strength, but we can still teach the rest of your body how to move with it and how to pull up or relax or whatever else through that.
And I think part of it too is you're getting that muscle strength. You're building the strength on how to do it correctly and everything else.
Mhm.
It also gets you set up for that, the surprise. Like
Yeah.
I've done a couple of them where you're going through and then randomly, it's usually not the bigger races, it's the smaller ones. You don't know if it's on purpose or just for whatever reason, you get one that's a sprinter.
Yes.
And that sprinter, or one or two, and one of the ones I did, it was like every fourth one was a sprinter and you didn't realize it. And I was sitting there watching, I'm like, why does everyone keep falling? And then I hit it with my fingers and I felt it spin. And I'm like, oh, there's a spinner there.
Yeah.
So I knew I
Yeah.
had to, you have to grab it the right way, grab it a little tighter, kind of,
Yep.
but you want to make
Yep.
sure that, you're not going to spin off. And that's how
Yep.
everyone was spinning, just spinning right off of it. So it's like, figuring out if you have that muscle strength and you're comfortable doing it, once you get that sprinter or a weird one, you're like, okay, I understand. I feel, I
Yeah.
get it now. Yeah.
Exactly. This sport is all about overcoming challenges.
Mhm.
You can't overcome challenges if you know what the challenge is going to be. You
Yes.
need to be able to overcome whatever is put in your way.
Mhm.
And that way you need to train for the unexpected, not for the expected.
Yeah.
And this is where people are having the biggest problems. They love the big brands because, it gives them a baseline and they know what to continue to work on. But it's really the small races that are giving you all of the big challenges, and the stuff you see in the smaller races, those are what you're going to see in any kind of championship races.
Mhm.
We're right now putting together a team for USA OCR to go over to obstacle course racing world championships through FISO in Belgium. And you know what everybody is going to be preparing for? The stuff you see in Europe, not the stuff you see here in the
Yeah.
US.
No.
So
Well, if
we
you need a
can't-
media person, just saying. Oh.
I was on the committee putting together the application, and we're deciding, what points go where, what we need to be asking,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. And, I was bringing up like, hey, if we're not having a qualification race, we should have a video application where we can see the best of their obstacle course racing skills, because what we're doing here in the US for obstacle course racing isn't going to translate as well over to Europe.
No.
That, we're giving more weight to the, Savage series as opposed to the Spartan series, where we gave more points to the smaller race brands that we know have the tougher obstacles than, some of the just basic Spartan races or basic whatever else. Like, we need to see how you do with the legitimate obstacles. And not to say that Spartan doesn't have legitimate obstacles, they do, but we need the lashing, we need the lock-offs, we need the innovation, because we don't know what's going to happen. And if you are only racing races where you know what to expect, you're not going to be prepared.
No.
But again, people are getting out of this sport because they don't want to do the ninja stuff. They don't like the unexpected. They're going over to the high rocks
that's the
and the
future.
Decas. Exactly. But you look at people going to High Rocks and Deca, and, at first it's, oh, something new, but they're going to have a short life, I predict, unless there is some change to it. I don't foresee them having as long of a life expectancy because their stations don't change.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the things a lot of people are surprised because I mean, I've done, I mean, every year except for like the COVID year, I've done 3 or 4 trifectas every year in
Mhm.
Spartan. I'm not signed up for one this year.
Yeah. I have a code to redeem a season pass from Spartan. I've had it since November. It's the end of March. I have not redeemed that season pass yet.
Yeah. I've had no reason to. Normally I would be, like this weekend, a year ago, I was flying to San Antonio. I see all the things popping up from Vegas from like 2 years ago and all that. And I'm like, but like we just talked about, I know what I'm training for. I know what I'm doing. When I
Yeah.
went to Montana last year and everyone's like, hey, what the heck? I think I'm going to go ruck it. And I did a ruck fecta. I did the entire thing the weekend with a ruck. And everyone's like, you're insane. I'm like, I knew what to expect though.
Yeah.
I've done Montana so many times. I'm like, I know this race course. This
Yeah.
is nothing new to me. And that's kind of where I've gotten that part. And I think it's for me. And it was one of those things I was talking to someone the other day. I think that's part of the problem that I've been having this year with motivation, because my motivation's always been Spartan in March. The only race I'm signed up for this year, I'm signed up for 2. That's it. I'm signed up for the Sisu in June and Ragnar in July. That's it. I'm thinking, I'm going to sign up for the Ironman. I just haven't signed up for it. I know I'm doing that one. And then I think I'm going to sign up for one of the triathlons in June, but there's nothing on my schedule because I'm just like, I've done so many of them. There's only one Spartan up here in the Northwest. That's
Mhm.
it now. We're down to 1. And it's the same place it's been since 2015.
Yeah.
It's the exact same course, same obstacles. They make it a little bit different by moving things around a little, but we
But
all
it's
know there's
like,
going to be the big hill. There's going to be the
yeah,
river. We all know what's going to happen.
do they run us up the hill before or after
Yeah.
the dunk wall?
That's about it.
Yeah. Are we starting on this hill or that hill?
Yeah.
And
gonna
are
be
we running
rolling
it
mud.
forwards or backwards?
Yeah, there's going to be rolling mud with a dunk wall and, a slip wall right after it, right
Yeah.
next to the road, like there is every year. I mean, it's just one of those things. And I mean, it's kind of like you mentioned, I mean, we need innovation. We need new obstacles
Yeah.
because
And
what am I training for now? I mean, I'm training because I want to train, but at the same time, it's like, before I always had that, like, I'm training because I want to go kill the Spartan this year. I want to just, and that was my thing for last year. I didn't want to just finish the Spartans. I wanted to actually, go and do a Spartan and beat it.
yeah.
And I feel like I did that last year. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what now?
I will say I am going to give credit to Spartan when we asked them if they would want any part of the expo.
Mhm.
They were really great. They are trying to support the OCR community as
They
a
are.
whole a lot better. And that's so great to see. And when, Jacksonville came out, they posted the pictures and whatever else. And, they had that, I guess their barbed wire crawl was ridiculously long. And then they put, all the sticks and hay bales and whatever else in a barbed wire crawl before the start line.
Yeah,
And it's
I
like,
saw that.
we see that you're trying some things, but it's like, okay, what good is this start line barbed wire crawl if it's not actually on the course? How is that slowing down or changing up the race for anybody who's out there to actually run it?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I'm planning to do, the Holy Grail and all of these endurance races because I want to test my body, see what my body can do with the longer races.
Mhm.
Because I know if I go run Spartans, I'm not the fastest runner. And now with the penalty loops, some of my clients said the penalty loops in Atlanta and in Vegas were so incredibly short that you were at an advantage to do the penalty loops. And it's like, I'm never going to podium at a Spartan race if I go and run one because I'm an obstacle specialist and you're taking the obstacles out of it.
Yeah.
You're not adding anything in that is going to slow people down.
No. And we've had that conversation before where I'm definitely of the mindset that I think, mandatory obstacle completion is the way to go,
It
because
is.
that is the problem. Because I've always had that before, where before it was burpees. If I knew I could do burpees fast enough and I knew I was most likely going to fail it anyway, you touch the obstacle, you run over, go do your burpees, and off you go. And it really, and I've seen those where, it was a race that I did once where I was doing pretty good, but there was a guy that kept running past me. And
Mhm.
then I would see him at the burpee pit when I went past him on the obstacle, and then he'd run past me again in the next one. And it's one of those things, but there's a lot of people that they know they can do burpees fast enough that they're going to lose a little bit of time, but not
Yeah.
much. And now that they've got the penalty loops, you just gave that person that has the speed the
Yeah.
advantage again.
Yeah.
And I don't like the penalty loops for that reason. And it's one of those things, like I said, I feel like Spartan has, which I get it, because they're trying to get more people, get a million people off the couch, whatever their thing is. And I don't mean to pick on Spartan, but they're the one, they're the
Mhm.
big ones that we see, and we both dealt with quite a bit. They make it to the least common denominator.
Yeah.
Like, we want to get everyone off the couch, so we're going to make it easy enough that anybody wants to do it. Oh, but that's why we have the beast and the ultra. And I'm like, yeah, but not at every venue and not everywhere. And I mean, there's people like me who want to do all three, but I mean, the beast doesn't make it really harder, it's just longer.
But also, if you want to make like a competitive series and you want to challenge the best of the best in age group or whatever
Mhm.
else, why are you putting a series race in Jacksonville, Florida, where it's as flat as a pancake? And, you
Yeah.
have these penalty loops that are still super flat. Like, go throw it into Killington and make the penalty loop up and down a hill for a quarter mile or whatever else. Like, and I will say, if obviously you need to be able to do some kind of obstacles to podium at a Spartan race. Like,
Mhm.
if you take the penalty loop with literally every single obstacle, you're not going to win
Yeah.
anything. But if you plan to, do the penalty loop on Olympus, Twister, monkey bars, multi-rig, and they're spaced out far enough, you definitely can still hit that podium.
Yeah. And you can gain ground easily. And that's one of those things. I mean, it's one of those that, I mean, I hope they start doing stuff like you mentioned, that the long barbed wire crawl.
Mhm.
Where else do you see that? I mean, is that
Yeah.
something that they do in Europe? Or do they, I mean, I've never seen that in any of the Europe races I've seen. I don't barely see barbed wire crawls at all.
Right.
It's
And
more of the hanging obstacles, and it's the ninja obstacles.
people want more of these tactical obstacles. Like, I if you want this barbed wire crawl, if you want to throw the hay bales in it with the barbed wire crawl, please put that on the course and throw that in, because
Mhm.
that would be something where you need to know the technique and you need to actually practice that to get through it relatively quickly. I mean, I have my clients, lateral bear crawl. I have them drag sandbags with them, like all this stuff, because there are races that you will have to do that.
Mhm.
And if you can, pull a sandbag with you as you're bear crawling, then it's only strengthening your core even more. And it's going to improve your speed and efficiency on a barbed wire crawl.
Yeah.
And who knows? That could be something that we end up seeing at world championships. I know we've seen it before in OCRWC. We've
Mhm.
seen Savage Race will have you go through obstacles with their lumberjack. Like, okay, let's do more of this stuff. That is fine. Maybe that's the new thing with Spartan, and maybe we'll see it coming into more of the championships.
I'm hoping so. I mean, it's one of those things, because it's one of those, I can remember I've been on a Spartan race where they actually had us carry a log
Yeah.
through the barbed wire. I remember they used to have I can't remember what it was, but the pegs that you basically walked across,
Yeah.
and you had to balance. And the last few, you almost had to jump from one to the other, where they
Oh, yeah.
had those type of obstacles. They had balance obstacles. They had all this. And somehow they went away from all that and went to just the
Mhm.
pure, like, muscle. And I'll be honest, when I was, in a lot of ways, when I was 310, there was a lot of obstacles that I could do better at 310 than I
Yeah.
could when I hit 180. because they required the brute strength. And at 310, I needed brute strength just to move my fat body around. So, I mean, I could do a lot of those better than I can now. It was just the speed. So, I mean, it's like I get the brute strength, but that's not, but of course, we're America, we have to be different, but that's not where the world's going. If they want to make this, like you said, an Olympic sport and make this whatever and make it, an actual competitive thing, they have to work with the rest of the world
Yeah.
and not just be like, well, we're America, follow us. Nobody's following America at this point. Not when it comes to obstacle course racing. They've got
Yeah.
their own schedule and the world is far and above beyond what we're doing.
I mean, how many people from Spain actually came out to OCRWC last year? Not very many. But you look at the obstacles that Spain is doing, and they are up there on top with, their rigs and everything else.
Yeah.
Spain, Denmark, like they are doing some great things, but it's not happening over here. I mean, Ida, I can never figure out how to say her name. She can come over to the US and easily walk away with a win at a Savage race
Yeah.
or Battle Bunker or whatever else. Like, you give her obstacles and she's going to crush them.
Yeah. I think here in the US, we're still, and that's one thing I've noticed even on like, the last couple of times when I did Spartan races, it was still a lot of the flat out running. And maybe they like using terrain for a lot. Like the Dallas race last year was a completely different location. It was good. I mean, we were running through like riverbed, like for a lot of it. There was a lot of scrambling up hills, stuff like that, which was kind of neat. But at the same time, it was a lot of, out in the middle of nowhere with no obstacles. And then all of a sudden you'd run up to a big bunch of them together and then back out in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah.
that's, like I said, I don't see that on a lot of, there's more obstacle heavy races. Seems to be what a lot of the other ones are going through for OCR. It's more
Yep.
obstacle course rather than running with some obstacles.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, you get out into all of these terrain stuff, nobody really wants to watch it. I still ask my parents if they would come out to a race, and they're like, why? So we can stand in this festival area and see you do maybe 3 or 4 obstacles and then go off and run for another couple of hours.
yeah.
And like, at least and they've said like we would come out and see you run the Boston Marathon, because with the Boston Marathon you can catch runners at multiple different spots and time it, so you can get from Hopkinton to Framingham to Boylston,
Mhm.
and you can be there and see them come past in multiple different times.
Yeah.
But obstacle horse races, it's okay, how do we know when they're going to be at each of these and what's going to happen first? And it's not spectator friendly.
No.
If it's not spectator friendly, sponsors aren't going to come out.
No.
They want to push their product with the racers and with the people in the crowds.
Yeah.
We need to figure out a way to draw that all in. And it's not happening right now. And unfortunately, we're going to have to sacrifice something to move this along. And it's going to have to be the running, and it's going to have to be the terrain.
Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
with
I agree.
what's going on in there, they're trying to put together like a triple crown or whatever of obstacle course racing. And I think Spartan had said that like World's Toughest Mudder is going to be one of them. A 5-mile loop is great. That is still spectator friendly. You can set up cameras along there so you can always be catching people as they come through. You have the festival area, you have enough of a path going back and forth, and it's going to give you the running while it's also going to give you that spectator feel. You're going to get great sponsors, and that works. But a 13-mile loop, that's not going to work.
No.
You aren't going to catch people all that often, and it doesn't happen as much. So as much as we love running up and down mountains and running through the woods and everything else, it's not that spectator friendly.
No.
We look at the Savage race today. I didn't get to watch the full coverage yet, but I heard that it was phenomenal. They were able to do some really great things and catch the race with awesome coverage, commentators, the works, but you can't get, rabbits and, ATVs going around following everybody with a camera if you're on mountainous courses and in all of this technical terrain.
Yeah. And that was one thing I'd say that the one that I've done, I mean, Spartan wise, that was that way was San Antonio last year. And that was
Mhm.
by accident because San Antonio, right before they like 2 weeks ahead, they're like, oh, we don't have the room that we thought we did.
Yeah.
So it ended up being what they called the ultra super, where it was 2 laps of the sprint.
Yeah.
And it ended up being, I mean, it was because on a sprint and you don't get a whole lot of room to run into
Mhm.
the next obstacle. So it was a super that was just 2 laps of a sprint with extra obstacles they threw in just for the super. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I think what it came out to be like 56 obstacles in
I
a
would love
freaking,
that.
yeah, and it was amazing. By the end of it, like the last 3 obstacles, I was just burping out of everything because at that point my arms were so smoked. Like when I went to go do bender, I could barely get my arm like over my head to grab the bar to go
Yeah.
over. And I'm like, this, and everyone's like, oh my God, this was horrible. And I'm like, it was, but I would freaking do this repeatedly.
Obstacle comes before race.
Yes.
We should be doing more obstacles with everything else. We shouldn't be running 1 to 2 miles in between the
No.
obstacles. We, especially if we're going to get this into the Olympics or into this massive World Federation type sport, we need to make sure that it is appealing.
Mhm.
Not a lot of people turn into the marathon on during the Olympics.
No.
People want to see more action, and if the premise of the sport is obstacle racing, we need more obstacles. We need people actually obstacling. We need things that are continuing to challenge them, but also that can stop the best of the best dead in their tracks and say, oh, okay. And, it's okay to have the top pros fail an obstacle 1 or 2 times and have to figure things out because nothing should ever be a give me.
No, it's trying to. Well, and one thing I think too is, I mean, it's one of those things, and I haven't done one yet, but everything I've seen on them that seems like it'd be one of the better ways to do it is the stadium races.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, oh, but you can't get the dunk wall. You can't. The dunk wall's not an obstacle. But
You
for me,
don't
it
need,
is because I hate the dunk wall. But you have to force me to go under the water.
right.
But I mean, you could put everything except for some of the water obstacles for like from a Savage or any of those in there. The rigs, the laches, you could do all of that inside a stadium. Add the stairs. A camera crew could easily cover that entire stadium,
Yeah.
and you could get spectators. I mean, that would be the way to do it. You lose the water. Oh darn. You lose the mud. We're not mud running. We're OCR.
Yeah. But you put it on a track, you can get like the water from steeplechase.
Yeah.
Like there are ways to get some of these things.
I
I
mean, I
mean,
remember terrain races just put pools that you had to go over.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like you don't need the water.
No.
I personally don't think that you should have to get wet on a course. Like if a rig is difficult because you just went down a giant slide and into the water and now you have to somehow figure out how to dry your hands just so you can beat this obstacle, that's not exactly fun. Like you shouldn't have to add something else to make an obstacle hard. If
No.
it's raining, that's one thing. If your obstacles are over water, that's one thing. But just because I just went down a giant slide doesn't, like, that should not be the thing that's making something hard.
No.
Hypothermia does not need to be an obstacle.
No.
There are things that it's just overkill. We don't need to be these, rugged hard asses who can go through anything. And sorry, I just swore.
That's
But like, we don't, we can be tough and rugged without going through the worst of the worst conditions.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. It's one of those things where, like you said, people think we're going to ninja, and we are in a lot of ways because that's what everyone's looking at. That's the next level for physical that everyone's looking at, where a lot of these other ones, where I think when you have the water and, I know I keep picking on Spartan, but that's the one I know well. Tough Mudder does this a little bit too, but that's on purpose because that's what makes their obstacles, is to go into the ice cold water and everything like that. That's part of it. But I think, with Spartan and some of the other ones, they try and make it so rugged. Like you said, you're going in the water, you're getting wet, your hands are all muddy, everything else. Now try doing the obstacles, lift this heavy thing, do that. Where Europe and everyone else is going more the high flyers.
Well, you look at it, you've got Ninja Warrior, you've got Ultimate Beastmaster, you have Wipeout, you have all of these shows that are coming out, and they're just giant obstacle courses. And one, I think there are not enough obstacle course racers that are actually getting on television for the amount of obstacle shows that are out. But this, you can see these work. Ninja Warrior works. It's spectator friendly. You can set it up. So why are we not using that premise to build a bigger sport out of it? If you need to go and run a lap around a stadium, come back in, do the obstacles.
Yeah.
You can get all the excitement. You can have spectators throughout. You can brand the entire course. But we need more people engaging, more people watching, more people getting excited about it.
We do. And I think one of the big problems we're running into too is, Spartan did have whatever the TV show they had for one season?
I think
Or
two.
Maybe two. But I think the biggest problem is you nailed it right on the head. They did not make it spectator friendly.
No.
Even watching it on TV, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool, whatever. But you could tell there wasn't spectators there. It wasn't like Ninja Warrior, where Ninja Warrior, they sell out almost every time they do one. Where Spartan did not make it. Because for one, it was muddy, it was nasty, it was in multiple places. Where Ninja Warrior, you could sit in your seat and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Where when they did the Spartan, you couldn't. And I think that's where a lot of people lose it. It's like, I can't really see what's happening. It's not spectator friendly, and that's what we need to fix, I think.
Yeah. And that's why High Rocks is drawing in spectators, because they have their stations right in the middle. They go out, they run. You can have the rabbit standing at the entrance of the running section, and the rabbit goes, they run their lap with them, and then they switch off to the cameras that are in the arenas.
Yeah.
We've seen it with so many other competitions. That's what CrossFit Game does too. They have their arena, and then they have where they go out, they do their cardio, they come back into the arena. We need to start setting it up in something similar. And I think that's so the 100-meter that's going to be coming out. And again, we don't have 100-meter here in the States yet, which is making it really difficult for USA OCR to form a team, because aside from OCRWC, we don't see 100-meter courses. But the 100-meter course over in Europe is huge. And they have those short courses already set up, and you have spectators lining both sides of it. And it is kind of like an arena thing. And then if they want to, add a running loop onto this, they can. I've seen, in Europe, they'll have obstacle course races on a track.
Yeah.
There's endless possibilities. We just need to get over this mentality of, oh, we got to do tough stuff. And, we need to endure hypothermia. We need to trip over tree branches. We need to be able to climb up to the top of the tallest mountains. Yeah. And then we have to do all of this stuff. No, why can't we just run between the obstacles like the sport intends it to be, and make the obstacles more difficult?
Well, and it's one of those things, and I know people get really mad when I say this. I've gotten to a point, I don't see Spartan as an OCR brand anymore. Spartan is a mud run brand, which to me is two different things. A mud run and an OCR are two separate things. Yeah. And Spartan's more, to me anyway, a mud run than an OCR.
Yeah.
So, and I know people aren't going to like that, and it's one of those things, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Spartan the whole time, but that's that's been what to me has defined my racing season for the last 6 years. And this year, like I said, I'm just so done. I'm like, I'm not even signed up for one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things, that's why I think I'm doing the, triathlons and stuff like that, because it's other stuff. And then once I get out of this beautiful state and get somewhere where they actually have some OCRs, I'll start doing some of the other ones. But
Yeah,
I do feel like we picked on them quite a bit, but whatever.
I do. And I feel bad because that's where I got my start. I still
Yeah.
have love for Spartan. I think it's great what they do for the prospect of obstacle course racing.
Yeah.
They used to be the top dog, the hardest. Now everybody else has continued to push higher and higher. And they're like, nope, we're still staying here at baseline. We just want to welcome everybody. It's like,
And
okay, but in order to continue to be that elusive, whatever else, you need to keep growing. And, if you continue to give somebody the same paycheck every single day, cost of living is going to continue to go up
Mhm.
and they're not going to be able to survive anymore. Right now, Spartan, they have remained the same, increase the price, continue
yes.
to increase
And that
the
was going to be my
price.
next comment, was the fact that it's the same race I was doing 5 years ago, but I'm paying double the price.
I would argue that it's actually an easier race than
Yeah.
we did 5 years ago because they have taken out a lot of that difficulty as they attempt to standardize. And like I said, we do need standardization to an extent, but how Spartan's doing it, we don't need it like that.
Well, it's one of those things, like when I can remember, like I was talking to someone the other day about, like, the first Spartan I ever did was the Montana Beast.
Yeah.
And it was the founders race. I've got like the 2015 medal. It's got weird spikes sticking off it. It's actually this cool looking medal. Never seen it again except for that one race. But I think we ended up at like 24 miles
Yeah.
on a beast, because that's what it used to be. People don't realize it wasn't a 13-mile race. It was 13 plus. So, and you never knew when you went to go race. It could be 13 miles. It could be 22. And Spartan is horrible at their mileage. They'd be like, yeah, it's an 18-mile course.
Yeah.
It was 24.
People joke about Spartan miles. If you got into Spartan 2016, 2017, 2018 or later, like you don't, so maybe 2016, 2017, you understand what Spartan miles are. Once you hit like 2018, 2019, it's all just kind of a joke where people are like, oh, Spartan doesn't count the carries. No, actually, Spartan was just so incredibly bad at their distance that they would put mile markers in any random place. And although they would say, hey, we have a 14.9 mile beast today, you're doing like 17 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that mile marker 14 when they're like 13.8. Oh, but why is there a mile marker 14 here?
Yeah. And there was a bunch of them where I can remember too, where it was like you swore you went like 4 miles and didn't see a sign. And then all of a sudden, like 100 feet after that, you saw the next one. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's like we just got mile 3 and 4 within
within
half
like
a
200
mile.
feet. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, it's like I said, I don't mean to bash them, but it's one of those. I feel like this isn't, like you mentioned earlier, this isn't what we signed up for. This isn't the Spartan that I started doing in 2015, where I was pushed to my limits and wanted to quit after every race because I'm like, this was horrible. And now I'm like, cool, hey, let's go. I think the one I did in San Antonio, or no, it was Dallas. I did Dallas and then went to the zoo afterwards, after the beast.
Yeah.
And went and walked another 4 miles.
Mm-hmm. I know so many people that are like, oh, I'm going and I'm running Florida and then I'm going to go to Disney World, or I'm doing Universal after it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you should be dead.
Yeah. In 2015, and I was in better shape then. I mean, I'm not than I am now, but I mean, I was in better shape then, than I was, right before COVID. And I was dead. After we finished that, I went back to the hotel room, crawled under the blanket and wanted to die.
Yeah.
And then, I did the trifecta weekend in Seattle, hopped on a plane the next day and flew to Hawaii and did it again.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things I've been telling everybody as part of why this sport is dying is because we thrived so much on social media.
Mhm.
And now, you get a dunk wall picture, you get a monkey bar picture, they all start to look the same, and pictures don't get likes anymore. Videos get likes. If you are on course taking videos, you're not going fast enough. It's not really going to get that many likes. But if you are going fast enough, you can't be worrying about a camera, or, there's not enough spectators to actually get those videos for you. And now, if in the perfect world, like OCRWC, you don't see a lot of people posting videos from OCRWC because they can't go back and play around on obstacles. Well, they also don't let you, but Savage Race, they'll let you go back and play around and get videos. You can tell how difficult a course was based on how many people go back and get videos on it after the fact. There shouldn't be that, because you should be so gassed. That obstacle was so difficult. Again, I referenced Boulder Dash today. I made a comment to the volunteer that was there. I said, this is an obstacle where you need to set up like a GoPro or something and just keep it rolling all day, because if and when somebody gets it, they're not going to be able to come back and do it again. You just have to keep that camera rolling and hope that you capture it.
Yeah. And that's it too, is, I mean, a lot of these things, I mean, like you said, it was the social media, it was the pictures, it was all that. I haven't, out of all the races I did last year, I think I went back and looked at 2 of them to see my pictures. I haven't even gone back to look at the pictures because I'm like, what, they look the same as they have for 7 years.
Yeah.
It's a dunk, like you said, a dunk wall picture, and maybe you might find another one.
Yeah.
But dunk wall's always the one. I do have a couple good dunk walls because I get the hair flinging when I do it. But I mean, it's okay. Everyone's seen the pictures over and over again. Whoopee. And like you said, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't want to beat on it too much more. I mean, it's one of those.
I know.
It is what it is. But, and like I said, that's one of the big things when I moved. That's one of my big pushes, is I want to be able to do Savage. I want to try some of those. There's so many more local races.
Yeah.
I've been looking around the Texas and area and everything like that. And I'm like, there's so many more local races than what we have up here. We have like 3.
So I again, I don't want to think like people are saying we're just sitting here beating up on Spartan. We love Spartan. We got our start with Spartan. We will always, like, I have a Spartan tattoo. Like, Spartan will always be with me. I will.
And I'm still planning to get a Spartan tattoo.
Yeah.
So
I will still run the local races for Spartan. I'll still come out support. I'll continue to be an SGX. Like, Spartan has done so much for this sport and the industry. My premise, or my purpose behind all of this, is to continue to encourage people to go out and explore more races.
Yes.
We are a sport that thrives on overcoming new challenges. Spartan is not giving us a new challenge, so let's go find more challenge. The more Spartan sees people going and praising some of the locals, or running the Savages, running the OCRWCs and saying, oh my God, I tried to Lachey and it was so much fun. Or, I beat this. Spartan sees all of that. They literally see everything that's going on. And we hope that they will then be encouraged to give us more new things.
Yes. And that's it. It's one of those things, like you mentioned, I'm not trying to just beat up on Spartan and say blah blah blah. They're horrible. Because they're not. Spartan has done great things. Like you said, that's where I got my start. Everything else. My complaint is, I want them to up their game.
Yes.
I'm upset because they keep making it easier. I'm trying to get healthier and make myself, and I'm like, finally I can do this. And I'm like, but can I do this because I'm in better shape, or can I do this because they made it easier for me?
Right.
And I want them to make it so that it's not easy for me, and I want to be challenged. And that's my biggest thing. I think they're taking that away by trying to make it easier for everybody. And it's also putting us as a country behind the rest of the world in OCR.
Yeah. And arguably,
Spartan needs to be the one to lead the way.
Yeah. The US, they have the most notable of athletes. Our athletes will be able to compete with the rest of the world, not because of what Spartan's doing, but because they are such high caliber athletes, and they are going out. They are going over to Europe to race. They are adding all of these new challenges into their training. They're rock climbing. They're doing ninja sport. They're ice climbing. They're mountain running. Like, they are doing it to continue to better themselves. And then it's like, they run Spartan because Spartan's going to give them a paycheck, not because Spartan is keeping them challenged.
No.
So please, Spartan, we want to see you continue to up your game. We want new venues. We want new obstacles. We want mandatory obstacle completion.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. And that's the thing is, like I said, I want Spartan because I want to keep doing Spartans,
Yeah,
but I want to be challenged and I want Spartan to up their game, not down it.
exactly.
And that's if you get nothing else out of this, that's really what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying they're a horrible company, they're anything. I think Spartan's amazing. They do great work for charities, they do great work with other people, but they need to up their obstacle games.
Mhm. And
Definitely.
go out and find the local races. If you
Yes.
ever have a question on
OCR buddy.
where OCR buddy, definitely. If you want to know more about obstacles and like specific obstacles at races, shoot me an email, a text, whatever else, and I am happy to send you a list of where you can see all of the best obstacles and or connect you with somebody who has ran specific races so you can get a better understanding on what to expect while you're there. But we need to continue to see harder rigs.
Yes.
That is the big thing. If we are going to continue to grow this sport into the international realms, we need harder rigs. So
We do.
don't shy away from it. Seek out coaches and trainers who understand ninja, who understand biomechanics. You can't just go to the Wahlberg gym because they're giving you metabolic conditioning. You need to actually go and learn biomechanics. You need to strength train specifically for the obstacles. You can't just take little group fitness classes that are gonna, kick your ass for an hour and call it a day.
Yeah.
We need serious training. We are a serious sport now.
Yeah. And we really, I mean, honestly, the best training that's what kills me is we don't have any really around here is ninja gyms. That's going to help you get it, but on not just the ninja gym. I think you need the weight training and everything else to go with it.
And exactly. And that is something that I've talked to a lot of people about. I will have friends send me videos and they're like, I'm working with my ninja coach today or whatever else. And I'll look at it and I'll say, okay, well, it looks like you're still really tight in your shoulders. Oh, well, I have to grip a little more, or I have to do this, this, this. And I'm like, okay, well, for your strength training, we should have you doing all of this to support that.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of ninja gyms that also have the strength training to any real extent.
Yeah.
We need to bring them all together. I think of it just like any other sport. Your ninja gym, that is sport specific training. That is like your practice, but you still got to get into the weight room. The football players, the soccer players, the baseball players, the every other sport, they still get into the weight room after their practice. They have their separate lifting sessions to continue to build their power, their explosiveness, their strength, their endurance, all this other stuff, depending on what time of the year it is in relation to their sport. Strength training cannot be an either or. You need to maintain your strength training with everything else. And if you don't have a ninja gym, you can incorporate that technique work into your strength training, but you cannot incorporate that strength training into your technique work.
Yeah.
So strength train, get your ninja stuff on, go run. It is a very demanding sport. It takes a lot of time to train. So also listen to your body.
It does. And that's one of those things too. And we've had a lot of talks about listening to your body. That was one of my biggest problems. But it's like I said, that's one of the things where a lot of people get stuck on. It's like when I started running like mad, then all of a sudden I went to go do an obstacle course race and I'm like, oh, I didn't do any strength training. And that's why it's, we've talked about this quite a bit. Combinations, do it all. Like I said, the ninja gym, but at the same time, I need to lift and I need to do the weight training. So I mean, it's a little of both. Because even the lifting is going to give you that grip strength, grabbing the bar, doing everything else. You're going to help you with grip strength. You're going to help with everything. You're going to get the core that you need for almost everything you have to do for ninja training. For the laches, I mean, all of that, everything's based off your core. So you got to get all of that and work on that. And I think that's where a lot of people, like you said, they get so stuck on just the ninja training. When really, if you look at most of the best ninjas, they've also lift, they do weight training, they do everything else. It's like a couple of the ones that you've seen that did okay, like a couple seasons, and then the next season they come back and they look jacked because they've been lifting and they're doing everything else, and now they go way farther. And it's like, because just the rock climbing, just that stuff wasn't enough to get them where they really needed to be. They needed the weight training, everything else on top of it.
I mean, look at VJ. He is adding in all of his weight training now on top of everything else, and he is just becoming so much stronger, faster, obstacle proficient.
Mhm.
Nicole Miracle, when she came on the scene, she wasn't the fastest, but she was strength training, she was doing the ninja stuff, and she continues to work on her running, and now she's fast, strong, obstacle proficient. Same with Ida. She, wasn't always the fastest runner, but she strength trained, she did obstacle stuff. Now you look at Lindsay, who's like, you talk to her, she's like, I hate strength training. You watch her strength training workouts, you're like, ooh, girl, you're really not too strong. And then you look at her obstacle game and it's like, okay, you need a little bit more on that strength training side
Mhm.
because you're slowly falling behind on your obstacle proficiency. Not to say she's bad, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for people coming at me about this. And it's like, she's great at obstacles. She understands her body. She is going to continue to thrive the more she strength trains.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are people who strength train, they do the ninja stuff. Lindsay's an amazing, phenomenal cardio athlete who is learning how to strength train. And now we're seeing people from coming from the other side that are pushing her more and more. And she's realizing, okay, I need to get on top of this. I need to do more and more and more and more.
And that's it. And I think that's one of the things is where you see Lindsay and where she's smart about all this, where a lot of people, they're like, okay, this is my area of expertise. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I do. I just need to get better at this. And then it'll make up for my shortfallings over here.
Yeah.
And Lindsay's looking at it going, no, if I need to fix my comings over here, I need to work on them.
Yeah.
So that's why she's working on the weight training because she knows she's got the speed and everything else
Yeah.
and, the technique, but she needs some of the weight
Yeah.
training. And
You look,
we got to
yeah.
fix that.
She was at the Gov Games and she was probably the least utilized of the athletes on their team because she wasn't as obstacle proficient. And it sadly, that's what happened.
Yeah.
She's going to continue to get better. Same reason why, when she ran Savage Race, she ended up pulling herself because she couldn't beat the rig. It's like she's giving herself the challenges of harder obstacles now. And she's
Yep.
realizing, okay, I need the strength training. I need to continue to get better if I'm going to stick around in this sport.
Yeah.
And like me, I've said it for years. If I wanted something easy within my realm, I would go to ninja sport. I naturally find obstacles less difficult. I want to continue to improve.
Yeah.
So I'm going to test myself with the running aspect of it. And I'm not to say that I'd be the best ninja ever, but my body is designed for obstacles. Lashing, I got that naturally. And I could go into the ninja realms and do fairly well with designated training, but
I can see
I
that.
want to learn something new. And
I
that's
could
where the
definitely
running
see
came
that.
in.
See, someday we'll see you on the ninja course and I'll be like, I know her.
Yeah.
So, well, I know we're around that hour mark. We were supposed to talk about the Dropkick Murphys, but we'll have to talk about them next time.
Oh,
We love the Murphys. All
yeah.
of us do.
We love the Murphys.
Everyone
Oh,
does.
it was such a great weekend.
Yeah, I went for a walk with Dawn and on my way home. I turned on because I don't listen to the radio anymore except for like just my phone, and it just happened to pop up with "Kiss Me, I'm Shit Faced." So I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Yes, I love
So,
it. Yeah.
which there I just swore to. So sorry, Dawn, but the name of a song, couldn't help it.
It is. It is.
So that great song too.
It is.
All right. Well, as always, it's been a blast.
Been so much fun.
Anything you want to tell the listeners before we go?
I don't think so. I am just getting ready for my year of ultras and I need rest. So
Yeah,
hopefully I'll have more exciting news the next time we chat.
I'm hoping. I mean, I always love talking to you, so it'll be
Yes.
good. Hopefully I'll have more exciting news on, how I'm doing on my journey of getting back to the fitness that I should be at. I definitely feel better. I have felt better this last week. I've gone out and ran a couple 5Ks. Like I said, I have to remind myself I'm not where I was. So
Mhm.
like when I see the speeds and I'm like, it's like I'm not where I was. I'm still not back to where I was, 3 years ago, but I'm not ideal at the moment, and I'll get back to it. So but I need to work on the weight training too. So I've been working on that. Like I said, I built the gym, fixed the gym so I can do the weight training, so I can get that and get both, so I can be more explosive and be an even better runner.
Good.
Yes.
I look forward to hearing all about it.
Yes. All right. Perfect. So we will talk again soon.
Okay.
Have a great rest of your weekend and get some rest.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.